Evening to all of you. Myself, Lakshmi Prasanna, working as assistant professor in Department of Soil Science and Agricultural Chemistry, SR University, Warangal. As part of our soil science course management of problem soils and irrigation water, today I'm going to discuss about the topic land capability and land suitability classification. Some of the basic terms in the land capability classification or the land evaluation plan includes land comprised of the it is the term which includes the physical environment, which includes the climate, which is affected by the climate, relief, soils, hydrology, and vegetation to the sum of the extents, which includes the potential for the land use. It includes the result of the past and the present human activities also. Planning. So planning is the process of allocating the resources, including the time, capital, labor in the face of limited resources in the short, medium, long term in order to produce maximum benefits to a defined group is known as the planning. Land use planning. Land use planning is the process of allocating the land to the use to the land areas, resources to the users. The function of land use planning is to guide the decisions on land use in such a way that resources of that environment are put to the most beneficial use of the man and also consumes and saves the time and consumes the resources, proper utilization of the resources for the future benefit also. Land evaluation is the concept which is concerned with the assessment of land performance when it is used for the specified purpose. It is known as the land evaluation. Land mapping unit. It is the mapped area of land having the specified characteristics. So these are defined by the mapping of the natural resource surveys, which includes the soil survey and also the forest survey. Principles of land use survey. So these are the fundamental approach and the methods which are employed in the land evaluation. The basic principles which includes the land suitability is assessed and it is classified with respect to the specific kinds of its use of land. Land evaluation requires a comparison and benefits obtained by the inputs needed on different types of land. It is a multidisciplinary approach which is required. Evaluation of land is made in terms which is related to the physical and social economic context of the area concerned with the suitability, which refers to the use on a sustained basis. Evaluation also involves the comparison of more than a single kind of use. So the basic principles involves the suitability, which is assessed and classified with respect to the specific kind of use. Evaluation requires the comparison of benefits which are obtained and inputs needed on a different kinds of land. It is a multidisciplinary approach which is required. Evaluation is mostly made in terms of the physical, economic, and social context of the area, and also the suitability refers to the use on a sustained basis. Evaluation involves the comparison of more than single kind of use on the resources on the particular land. Major kinds of land use and land utilization types. So the types of major kinds of land use and land utilization types includes major kinds of land use is a division of rural land use such as rain-fed agriculture, irrigated agriculture, grasslands, forest, or the recreation. Land utilization types is described or defined in a degree of detail rather than a major kind of a land use. Some of the examples of land utilization types are rain-fed annual cropping is based on groundnuts with subsistence maize by smallholders with low capital resources, cattle-drawn farm implements with high labor intensity on farmlands of 5 to 10 hectare area. Other utilization of land includes the farming, which is similar in respect to the production, capital, labor, power, and technology, but farms on a land of 200 to 500 hectares of land, which are operated on a communal basis. Commercial wheatland production on large farm holes with high capital and low labor intensity and high level of mechanization and inputs. So major kinds of land use is uh, the land use which is the rain-fed agriculture, irrigated agriculture, grassland, and forestry and the recreation. Whereas the land utilization type is defined as a degree greater than the kind of the land use. Some of the examples of land utilization types includes the rain-fed agriculture, having the groundnut with the subsistent maize by the smallholders. The smallholders have the low capital resources using capital drawn farm implements, high labor intensity on a farms of 5 to 10 hectare area. Familiar to this in respect to the production, capital, labor, and power on farm land holding of 200 to 500 hectare area on a communal basis. Commercial wheat production on large farm holes, which has high capital, low labor intensity, and a high level of mechanization and inputs. Extensive cattle ranching with medium levels of capital and labor intensity have the central services which are operated by the government agencies, also a kind of the land utilization type. So the other land utilization type, that is the softwood plantations, are operated by the government department of forestry with high capital intensity and low labor intensity and advanced technology. And national park which is the land which is used for the recreation and also the tourism. Multiple and compound land use. Multiple and compound land use refers to a situation where more than one kind of land use is practiced within an area. More than one kind of land use is practiced within an area is known as the multiple or compound land use. Multiple land utilization type consists of more than one kind of land use is undertaken on a single area, where more than one kind of land use is undertaken on a same area of land, having its own inputs, requirements, and produce. It is known as the multiple land utilization types. For example, the timber plantation used simultaneously as a recreational area. Compound land utilization types includes where more than one kind of land use is undertaking on the areas of land, where more than one kind of land use is undertaking on the land for the purpose of evaluation, which is treated on a single unit. More than one kind. Here, one kind of usage is simultaneously done on a same area. Here, more than one kind of land is undertaking on areas of land for the purpose of evaluation on a single unit. Mixed farming, which involves both arable use and also grazing, is an example of compound land utilization. Land suitability and land capability classification. The term land capability classification is the inherent capacity. Inherent capacity of land to perform at a given level for general use, and suitability as a statement of adaptability in a given area for a specific kind of land use is known as the land capability classification. So the land capability and suitability are interchangeable. Land capability classification, suitability classification is the fitness of a given land for a defined use. That is known as the land suitability classification. This land may be considered which is present in the condition or after improvements. Structure of the suitability classification includes land suitability orders, land suitability classes, land suitability subclasses, and land suitability units. Land suitability orders describes about the kinds of the suitability of land for different use. Land suitability classes reflect on degree of suitability within the orders. Land suitability subclasses determines the kinds of limitation, kinds of improvement which are measured within the classes. Land suitability units describes about the minor difference which are required in the management practices within the subclass. So here the important point is that land capability, the definition of land capability is the inherent capacity of land to perform at a given level at a general use, and suitability and adaptability for a given area of a specific kind of land use is known as the land capability. So structure of land suitability classification includes land suitability orders, land suitability classes, land suitability subclasses, and land suitability units. Importance of land capability classification. So land capability classification assesses the land for specific uses, whether the particular land is potential or having limitations of land itself. And this land capability classification have 8 classes. Among the 8 classes, first 4 classes are suitable for the irrigation purpose, and the next 4 classes are not suitable for the irrigation purpose based on the limitations present in them. This land capability classification helps or guides in protecting our precious soil resources, which ensure the food security, promotes environmental health for current and also the future generations. It also guides the sustainable agriculture practices. Land capability classification helps in guiding the sustainable agriculture practices by understanding, or it helps the farmers or the land managers to understand the inherent limitations of their land by preventing them from attempting the cultivation or practices that would lead to the soil degradation, like erodible land on the slope areas. This also ensures the long-term productivity and sustainability. So guiding sustainable agriculture practices, so it helps, land capability classification helps in guiding the farmers and also the managers. It provides a guide, it acts as a guide for the farmers and also the land managers by giving the inherent limitations of their land, and thereby protecting their land from the soil degradation processes, like tilling the highly erodible areas or the slopy areas. It also ensures the long-term productivity and sustainability, and maintains the soil health. Prevents it. Land capability classification helps in preventing the soil degradation. Soil degradation can be prevented by identifying the lands which are prone to the soil erosion, waterlogged conditions, and land degradation conditions. It acts as a preventive measures. It helps in taking the preventive measures in the areas which are prone to the erosion and waterlogged areas and the soil degraded areas. So in these lands, there is severe limitations are advised, such as pastures, forestry, and wildlife habitat, thereby protecting the soil resources. So pastures, forestry, and wildlife habitat can be protected by preventing the soil degradation and protecting the soil resource. Land capability classification also helps in informing the land use planning. So it helps in informing the land use planning, like policy makers and planners. The policy makers and the planners which designate the areas for intensive agriculture or extensive grazing or the forestry or the conservation helps in allocating the lands which are economically sound and viable. So it helps important in land use farming, like it helps the planners and also policy makers by giving the characteristics of land, whether it is having the land allocations or whether it is economically sound and economically viable. Optimization of resource allocation. So the resource optimization is done full-fledgedly by doing the land capability classification, that is investments in the irrigation, fertilizers, and the specific machinery can be directed to the lands which are most capable and providing returns. If the lands are less capable, we can manage this machinery so that the cost of cultivation is reduced. In this manner, we can consume the resources and also the various types of resources and the inputs which is more beneficial for the farmers. So it also helps in the conservation planning. So it helps in conservation planning by identifying the lands that is protected from the intensive uses like severe limitations. So it helps in conservation planning, like it gives information about the severe limitations like very steep slopes, shallow soils, highly erodible areas. So in the highly steep slopes or the shallow areas or highly erodible areas, where the conservation practices like contour bunding and the other practices should be done in order to conserve the resources and get the these lands are best suited for the irrigation. So we can land capability classification helps in distinguishing these very steep slopes, shallow soils, and highly erodible areas, which is suitable for the conservation, wildlife habitat, and the recreational purpose, thereby conserving the natural resources. Risk assessment. It also helps in assessing the risk assessment, which is associated with different land users by developing the urban areas on the lands, developing urban areas on the lands which are highly erodible and prone to the flooding can lead to the infrastructure damage and environmental problems. Land capability classification helps to avoid such mistakes, which helps in preventing the soil degradation and also the cost of cultivation on them. It helps in policy development and regulation. The governments use the land capability classification acts as a guide for developing the land use policies, zoning ordinance, and the regulations. It also includes the incentives for managing the land according to its capability or restrictions on certain activities in highly sensitive areas. It also helps in education and also giving awareness, like it acts as a simplified and easily understandable framework for the land users and also for the farmers to grasp the fundamental characteristics and limitations of their land types. This also helps and creates a greater awareness and promotes the land stewardship. Valuation and taxation. So it also helps in the valuation and taxation by creating the land valuation taxation, which is the inherent productivity and potential for various uses. So in importance of land capability classification, it acts as a guide in maintaining the sustainable agriculture practices by maintaining the land and preventing the land from the soil degradation. It helps in preventing the soil degradation, thereby making the preventive measures such as forestry, pastures, and wildlife habitat can be protected, can be done in areas where the lands are not suitable for the irrigation purpose. It helps in informing the land use planning and land use policy makers for designing the areas which are used for the extensive irrigation conservation, thereby allocating land allocations for the economically sound and viable things. It helps in optimum utilization of resources for the policymakers and also for the farmers. It helps in conservation planning, where the areas having the steep slope, shallow soils, and the highly erodible areas can be done, where the land can be conserved by doing the contour bunding or the terracing practices can be done in that area. And these areas can be best suited for the doing the conservation or the wildlife habitat, the recreation purpose. Risk assessment, it also helps in the risk assessment, which is developed generally in the urban areas where the land are classified, the highly erodible lands which are prone for the flooding. So in those areas, the development cannot be done. So this can be this risk can be assessed before itself by doing the land capability classification, and we can avoid these mistakes. It helps in the policy and regulation development, which acts as a basis for development of land use policies, zoning, ordinance, and regulations. by restricting the areas and by restricting the areas where the lands are not suitable and also in the highly sensitive areas. It helps in giving awareness and also education to the giving the framework for the land users and public policy makers to determine the characteristics and limitations of their land types. Valuation and taxation can also influence the inherent productivity and potentials of various users of land. Structure of suitability classification. So land suitability refers to the fitness of given type of land. It refers to the fitness of given type of land for a defined use. The land may be considered in its present condition or after improvements. It includes land suitability orders, land suitability classes, land suitability subclasses, and land suitability units. Structure of soil suitability classification. So the land use planning or the land use option should be economically suitable, physically viable, physically suitable, and socially acceptable, which is a major criteria and major characteristics of doing the land capability classification. Land suitability orders. Land suitability orders indicates whether land is assessed as suitable or non-suitable under its consideration. So there are two orders which are represented in the map or the tables, which are designated with the symbols S and N. S refers to the order suitable and N refers to the order not suitable. So S refers to the suitable land. So land is the land on which sustained use of kind is the land where the land is suitable for the irrigation purpose and it is expected to yield the benefits which justify the units without having any risk to the land by the land degradation and also the degradation of the resources. That is S, and N is the land order which is not suitable for the irrigation purpose. It is a land which has the qualities that appear to preclude the sustained use of kind of land under the consideration. So S is the suitable land which is helps in giving or yielding the benefits by or which have the justification to the inputs without having the any risks or the soil degradation to the land resources. Order N is the not suitable for the irrigation purpose or not suitable land where the qualities seems to appear in the preclude the kind of consideration. Land suitability classes. So land suitability classes reflects on degree of suitability within the order. So land suitability classes includes class S1, class S2, S3, N1, N2, and NR. Class S1 is highly suitable class, highly suitable for the cultivation purpose. This land has no significant limitations. So when we see the characteristics of class S1, this land has no significant limitations and sustained application of given use. Only minor limitations. There are only minor limitations which it will not affect the or it will not reduce the productivity or the benefits and it will not raise the inputs above an acceptable level. Class N2, class S2 is the moderately suitable class, which include the land have the limitations in which there is moderate to the severe in nature. The limitations will reduce the productivity or benefits and increase the required inputs to the extent of overall advantage. It will be appreciable inferior to the expected on class S1 land. Class S3 is marginally suitable land where this land has limitations within which aggregate or severe for sustainable application on given use of land, and also reduces the productivity or benefits and increase the required inputs. It also increases the expenditure and will be marginally justified. Class N1 is currently not suitable. The land has limitations which may be surmountable in time. It cannot be corrected with existing knowledge and currently acceptable cost. The limitations are so severe to preclude successful sustained use of land in the given manner. Class N2 is permanently not suitable. It has the limitations which appear to be so severe to the preclude of possibilities on sustained use of land in a given manner. NR is the not relevant class, not relevant suitability class. This land has been not assessed for a given use because the application of use in that particular area is precluded in the initial assumptions of evaluation. So these are the land suitability classes, which mainly reflects about the degree of suitability of land to the particular crop. So class S1, class S2, class S3, class S1, N2, and NR. Land suitability subclasses, which includes it reflects on kinds of limitations, moisture deficiency, and erosion hazard. These subclasses are mainly indicated by the lowercase letters, like it has been identified as subclass C, which includes the climatic limitations, T, topographic limitations, class W, which includes the wetness limitation, class S, which includes the physical limitations like influencing the soil-water relationship and their management. Class F includes the soil fertility limitations, which are not ready and it is to be corrected. Class N includes the salinity or alkalinity limitations. So land capability classification includes 8 classes, that is the class 1, class 2. So it is described in Roman letters. Class 1, class 2, class 3, class 4, class 5, class 6, class 7, class 8. It is used to represent both irrigated and non-irrigated land capability classes. Each class has been described in the further slides. So here I want to discuss about the classes and their color, which is depicted on the maps, soil maps. So class 1 have very slight limitations that restricts their use. It is depicted with the green color on the soil map. Class 2 has soil have the moderate limitations that reduce the choice of plants and also require moderate conservative practices. The color of the class 2 is yellow in color. Class 3 soil have severe limitations that reduces the choice of plants, having the special and also requires the special conservation practices. Here class 3 color is depicted with red color. Class 4 have severe limitations that restrict the choice of plants and require very careful management practices, and it is depicted in blue color on soil map. Class 5 have little or no hazard of erosion. They have other limitations impractical to remove, and they are mostly used for the pastures, forest land, wildlife and conservation and forest cover. This class is depicted with a dark green color. Class 6 have severe limitations that makes them generally not suitable for the cultivation purpose, and it is mostly used for the pastures, forest land, wildlife and forest cover. It is depicted with the orange color. Class 7 has severe limitations that makes the land not suitable for the irrigation purpose or for the cultivation purpose, and it is mostly used for the grazing, forest land and the wildlife, and the color is depicted in the brown color. So here the important point for the JRF point of view is class 1 is designated with the green color, class 2 is designated with the yellow color, class 3 is depicted with red color, class 4 is in blue color, class 5 dark green, class 6 orange color, class 7 in the brown color. So these are the different types of colors which are depicted on the soil maps. So among these 8 classes, first 4 classes, class 1, class 2, class 3, class 4 are suitable for the irrigation purpose. Rest of the 4 classes, that is class 5, 6, 7, 8 are not suitable for the irrigation purpose because of their major limitations. Uh, so, so now we'll see the characteristics of each classes one by one. So class 1 is in green color. So class 1 is in green color on the soil map. The characteristics of soil 1 is it is a very good arable land with no specific limitations in farming. It is nearly leveled, well-drained land and easily soil can be worked out easily. Very productive soil. These soils are mostly found in flood-plain regions of the country. These soils are used for the crops and it needs practices in order to maintain the soil fertility and the soil structure. Class 2 includes the good cultivable land, which needs protection from the erosions and also from the floods. The soils of this group are cultivated easily by having some practices like contour tillage, crop rotation, water control devices. Majority of these crops are grown on the land. It is found on the gentle slopes and it is subjected to the moderate erosion. Class 2 is described as yellow color on the soil maps. Class 3 is the moderately good soils. So these soils have steep slope. It suffers from the soil erosion, climatic problems. Soils are inherently low in fertility. Practices like plant cover, surface drainage, internal drainage, and contour bunding and contour bunding or contour tillage is to be followed in order to have the good soil property. So class 3 is present in the red color. Next, class 4, which is fairly good land. It is suitable for the occasional and limited cultivation. These soils are affected by hazards like waterlogging, water deficiency. These occur on the steep slopes with low fertility and it is more vulnerable to the erosion. Subsistence farming is most practiced in this area and forest grains are grown on the soils. Soil moisture conservation measures like water disposal on terrace, contour tillage, stabilization of gullies should be undertaken as a reclamation measure in the class 4, which is seen as blue color. So this is the diagram which depicts the various types of classes and its intensity of land use. So this orange color determines the suitability of various classes on the basis. So class 8 is mostly used for the wildlife and class 7 is used for the forestry. And rest of the classes, it is limited, moderate limited, limited for grazing, moderately limited for grazing, and it is intense for grazing of class 5. Limited cultivation, which is seen in the class 4. moderate cultivation, which is seen in the class 3, intense cultivation, which is seen in the class 2, and very intense cultivation, which is seen in the class 1. So intense cultivation in class 1, less intense in the class 2, moderate intense cultivation in the class 3, and limited cultivation in the class 4. Whereas in the grazing point, intense grazing is seen in the class 5, moderate grazing is seen in the class 6, and limited grazing is seen in the class 8, and mostly forest and wildlife is seen in the class 8 classification. Plants not suitable for the cultivation purpose are 5, 6, 7, 8 classes. So in the class 5, which is depicted with the dark green color, these type of soils are well suitable for the grazing and forestry purpose, and it is not suitable for the cultivation of crops. These particular soils are found in the foothills of Himalayas and the mountain valleys. Land is leveled and it is subjected to the soil erosion by wind, water if it is not properly managed. There are few limitations like grazing should be regulated on these soils. Next, class 6. So class 6 is depicted with orange color. It has moderate permanent limitations and not suitable to the crops. These soils are suitable for the grazing or for the forestry purpose. These, uh, these soils have steep slope, shallow, and it is prone to the erosion than class 5 soils. They suffer from severe environmental constraints. Class 7, which is depicted with the brown color, this soil is fairly well suitable for the grazing or the forestry purpose. There are severe environmental constraints greater than the classic soils. These soils are steep, eroded, shallow, swampy, and dampy, and it is not suitable for the irrigation. Strict management practices should be followed on these particular soils. Class 8 soils, which are in brown color. So these soils are suitable only for the wildlife and the recreation purpose. These soils serve as the purpose for preserving the rare species. The soils of this class are extremely rough, arid, swampy, and sandy beaches, marshy areas, desert areas, and nearly barren lands. They may be used for the wildlife sanctuaries, recreation facilities, and the watershed uses. So this is the diagram of different classes. So when we see the overview of this land capability classification, so 8 classes. Class 1 is in green color, class 2 is in yellow color, class 3 is in red color, class 4 blue color, class 5 dark green color, class 6 orange color, class 7 in brown color. Class 1 land suitability subclasses includes class 1, which is highly suitable and it has no significant limitations. Class 2 is moderately suitable. It has some of the limitations and moderately sustained application of fertilizer to be given. Class 3 is moderate, marginally suitable. Land having the limitations with aggregate severe and sustained application on a given use, and it reduces the productivity and benefits of soil. Class 1, it is currently not suitable. Land having limitations which may be surmountable in time and cannot be corrected with existent knowledge at the current acceptable cost. In class 2, class N2, it is permanently not suitable. Land cannot be used for the cultivation purpose. It has more limitations and there is no possibilities as there are more constraints and hazards. NR is not relevant. So the land which is not assessed for a given use because of the application of the use of land which are precluded and initial assumptions of the evaluation. And class land suitability subclasses includes which are described in the lower letters. Class subclasses C deals with the climatic limitations. T includes the topographic limitations. W includes the wetness limitations. S includes the physical soil limitations like soil water relationships and their management. F includes the soil fertility limitations which are not readily to be corrected. And N includes the salinity or alkalinity hazards or the limitations. Significance of land capability classification in land use planning. Land capability classification is the method of categorizing the land which is based on their ability to support various types of land without which causing the long-term degradation. It plays a crucial role in maintaining the sustainable resource management by having the scientific basis for it acts as a scientific basis for the decision making. Standard scientific based framework to be assessed by the land suitability, and it helps the planners and policy makers to make the decisions according to the lands of their appropriate type. It prevents the land degradation. It identifies the limitations of land like slope, risk, and the drainage, the infiltration of that particular land, thereby helps to avoid misuse of land by preventing the soil aeration, soil erosion, soil degradation, nutrient loss, and the desertification. It helps in promoting the sustainable agriculture. It is effectively, it helps the agriculture farmers to be effectively helps in minimal environmental impact. Thereby, the unsuitable lands can be directed towards forestry, grazing, conservation practices. Optimum resource utilization helps in the rational land allocation. Rational land allocation can be done by the land capability classification, which is the most important and productive sustainable purpose, which helps in land productivity and resource efficiency. It supports the infrastructure and development planning in the site in the urban and rural development areas. Land capability classification helps in the site selection for the construction of the roads, buildings, industries, thereby avoiding the flood-prone or the drought-prone areas of the landslides and the poor drainage conditions. It supports it facilitates watershed and forestry management. Land capability classification helps in planning the watershed projects, afforestation programs, and pasture development by aligning the land with natural capability to conserve the soil and water. It helps and guides the policy and zoning regulations. It helps the government and the local bodies. Land capability classification helps in formulating the zoning laws, subsidies, and incentives based on the land capacity to support the specific activities. It also enhances the climate resilience. It contributes to resilience farming systems, which helps to further better withstand of climate variability and extreme weather conditions. Significance of land suitability classification. Land suitability classification is the process of assessing the potential land of a given piece of land for a specific use. It helps in analyzing the various land characteristics like soil type, topography, climate, water availability, and land cover against the requirements of different land uses. The primary goal of the land suitability classification is best suited for the popular activities where it is suited for the marginally suited or the non-suited. It helps in the optimum land utilization, optimum land use and productivity, where it maximizes the productivity and efficiency of land-based activities can be done effectively. Minimizing the agriculture yields, it helps in maximizing the agriculture yields. It helps to land suitability evaluation helps in maximizing the agriculture yields by identifying the most fertile lands and appropriate lands for different crops, leading to the higher yields by reducing the input cost like fertilizers and water and more profitable farming. It also prevents the costly and unproductive cultivation on the unsuitable lands. Land planning also helps in the minimizing the environmental degradation by directing the lands by directing the land use from fragile and sensitive areas like steep slopes prone to the erosion or wetland lands, which are useful for the biodiversity in promoting the environmental damage. It practices the land inherent capabilities and reducing the soil degradation, water pollution, and the habitat loss. It also helps in informing the land use planning. It, it, it provides us essential data about the analytical framework for the land use planning for the construction of the roads, buildings, or the industrial areas or the airports for the uh, which helps or which saves the time and also the land area. It supports the sustainable development by optimum usage of land resources. Sustainable evaluation is the cornerstone of the sustainable development. It helps to meet the current needs without compromising its ability to support the future generations. It helps in reducing the risk and also the land evaluation helps in reducing the risks and also cost economic losses like crop failures, infrastructure damage due to the unstable soils, environmental liabilities, and it helps to mitigate the risk by guiding the investment to the areas which is not mostly to succeed. It also helps in facilitating the resource allocation like irrigation projects, infrastructure development, conservation funding to the areas where it has a positive impact and economically sound and viable. It helps in aiding the policy formulation. The government and policymakers can have the suitability assessment to develop the land use policies, zoning regulations, incentive programs, which encourages the appropriate land management practices, and discourages the unsuitable ones. It helps in promoting the conflict resolutions like in areas where there is competing demands for land and objective suitability assessments. It provides a neutral, evidence-based foundation for discussions and negotiations among the stakeholders, helps to resolve the potential land use conflicts. So let's see the overview of the significance of land suitability classification. So land suitability classification, the primary goal of this land suitability classification is best suited for the particular activities which are marginally suited and which are unsuited. So it helps in optimizing the land use and productivity. It helps in maximizing the agriculture yields. It helps in maximizing the environmental degradation, minimizing the environmental degradation and maximizing the agriculture yields. It helps in informing the land use planning. It supports sustainable development. It helps in reducing costs and risks. It helps in resource allocation. It aids in policy making and policy formulation and promote conflict resolutions. Significance of land capability classification includes it helps as a scientific bias for decision making. It helps in preventing the land degradation, promotes sustainable agriculture, optimize resource allocation, supports infrastructure development and planning. It also helps in facilitating the watershed and forest management. It guides in policy and zoning regulations. It enhances the climate resilience. So here in this lecture, we have discussed about the land suitability classification and land capability classification. So land capability classification has 8 classes. So we have discussed about the classes, their characteristics and the color of the particular classes, and land suitability subclasses and land suitability orders, significance of land capability classification, and importance of land capability classification, and importance of land evaluation. So all these points are discussed in this PPT. I hope this PPT is useful. If you like the content, please do like, comment, and subscribe my videos. Thank you.